Have you been playing No Man's Sky Beyond and found yourself always needing more and more money so you can keep upgrading to better gear? Maybe you are a new player of the game and you're curious as to how you will afford some of these big purchases in the game. There are a lot of people online saying, this is the best way to make money, or that is the best way, but they are always focused on one option. That doesn't work for me, so I went through testing a wide range of methods to narrow it down to which methods I found to be the best for different stages in the game. These methods I am presenting today are current as of the synthesis update, but of course may be changed in future updates. So without wasting any more time, let's dive in. So at the start of the game, making money isn't a big issue yet, as you're more focused on survival and gathering up supplies such as oxygen and sodium to keep yourself alive. While gathering these items, you will also be gathering a lot of other materials. Once you reach the first space station or trade post, you can of course start selling these extra items, but you will also need some of them for other uses. So what items are the better options? Well, first up is cobalt. Cobalt is actually pretty abundant on most planets and found by destroying the stalagmites and caves. You don't really need cobalt for too much in the very early stages of the game, so it works well as a selling item and brings a decent baseline price of 198 units each. In addition, breaking the stalagmites will also yield more precious materials, such as silver, gold, and even platinum, allowing you to sell these as well. Plus, being inside a cave while harvesting gets you out of the elements, so your hazard protection will last a bit longer. Now here's a tip for you that no one even told me until I was much further along in the game. When you go to the space station or trade post to sell items, sell them to the passing NPC ship pilots instead of the trade terminal. Selling to the pilots will not affect the trade value if you end up selling a large amount to one of them. Beyond cobalt, another great item to sell in the very early stages of the game is the salvaged data. Now I know some of you might be screaming,
but you need that to unlock stuff.
But hear me out. Except for the occasional dead or abandoned planet, most planets have an abundance of salvaged data buried so you can always find more. Yes, it is needed to unlock building options for your bases, but it also brings a very good baseline sell price of 50,000 units each. So yes, use some of your salvage data to unlock buildable items, but do not be afraid to sell some too. You will always find more, and the money you get for it is much more useful at the start of the game rather than later on when you are making millions per day. The last early game option is for those of you who like the flight and combat mechanics of the starships in the game. Bounties are random events you can encounter requiring you to destroy a fugitive starship. Succeed with destroying the target ship, and you can fly away with a bounty of 100,000 units or more. In addition to the money, you can also snag some pretty rare and valuable resources that you can keep for later or sell to increase your coffers immediately. Now let's look at the more involved but higher yielding options for making money. After all, ship upgrades get pretty expensive. Once you have unlocked at least the medium refinery, you can start processing materials in what is simply called expansion. There are numerous elements that can be expanded, but one of the better options is chlorine. Chlorine expansion works by placing 1 chlorine and 2 oxygen in a medium or large refinery and producing an expanded 6 chlorine as the end result.
Okay, Mr. Spicy, how does that help?
You will likely have a fair amount of oxygen stocked up due to how many things yield it when harvested on the planets. On top of that, oxygen isn't that expensive to buy at a base price of 34 units per 1 oxygen. For comparison, chlorine has a base price of 602 units per piece, so this makes for a very nice profit margin. So a simple base consisting of just a medium refinery, solar panel, and battery can handle producing a large amount of chlorine by using the oxygen you already have or buy. You can also just throw a medium refinery in your freighter ship and skip the solar panel and battery if you like. The only real drawback to this is the time you have to wait while the refinery processes each round. So this is a great method to get a large amount of money going, but it is tedious and dull. You can also improve your profits by using a gas collector on an oxygen deposit, but this is still a time-consuming method regardless. The next popular method is farming.
Of course it is farming. What exploration and building game doesn't have farming of some sort?
You have different plants which you farm, of course, to yield different results. The harvested products can then be used to make more expensive items, which you need to unlock blueprints for by getting them from special locations such as manufacturing facilities on planets. The 3 main farming builds are focused around living glass, liquid explosive, and circuit boards. Each has a different set of plants needed to produce it, and each plant has a different growth cycle time. While you can build your farm around the different growth cycle times of the different plants, most players just build so they harvest all at once. With that in mind, Living Glass has a 4-hour growth cycle, while Liquid Explosive and circuit boards have a 16-hour growth cycle. So think about how often you can play on any given day and choose which cycle fits your schedule. Living Glass is the least valuable of the 3 items, but can be produced faster if you play the game a few times a day. Circuit boards are the most valuable, but only slightly more than Liquid Explosive, so this is more of a choice of preference or what resources you have available. As far as building the farm, the best options are the large hydroponic trays or biodomes. Hydroponic trays do not have an automatic harvest mode at this time, but give you the option for a more space-efficient layout. Biodomes can provide either 16 or 13 growing spots, depending on how you arrange them. If you place a door or hallway connected to any side of a biodome, you will lose 3 spots. So for the max number of growing spaces, you have to build them on top of ladder sections and climb up. I personally prefer the large hydroponic trays because I can place them all in one room and just go around. Biodomes have a nice harvest all option, but when you factor in the running around between them, you may not find it as beneficial. So in the end, build based on how you want it to look. To help make figuring out how much you need to build for each farm and for what yield, there is a link in the description below to a spreadsheet I made to help you calculate build size and plant requirements. Finally, the last and most high yield option in the game as of the synthesis update is mineral farming. Using the surveying upgrade for your analysis visor lets you find deep resource deposits to mine. These rank the same as your ships do, with C-Class being the lowest yield and S-Class being the highest yield. While you can harvest several different minerals, the most valuable and of course harder to find is indium. Once you can warp to a blue star system using the indium drive, you can begin searching one of the planets for a good indium mining site. While any indium site will work, in the long run it is worth the extra time and effort to find an S-Class deposit. Once you have a good deposit found, it is simply a matter of building a base with sufficient power and supply depots for the mineral extractors. More extractors means faster production, and more supply depots means the extractors will run for longer before you have no more room. Once again, this is another case where you want to make sure you sell your indium, or whatever mineral you choose to mine, to the passing NPC pilots and not through the trade terminal. Selling to the trade terminal will lower the local price value of the mineral because you are essentially crashing the market, and that brings us to the last method, which myself and quite a few other players consider to be somewhat cheating. Like a real-world financial market, selling enough of a single item to the trade terminal will crash the market, causing the price of that item to plummet. The trick some players use with this to exploit the mechanic is by first selling a large amount of something, such as wiring looms, to crash the price. Then after the price is down to typically around minus 80% of the baseline price, they buy all of the wiring looms back, plus any the terminal already had. Then it is off to the next space station to repeat the process. This is a fast way to make money in the game for sure, but it is nothing short of exploiting a mechanic in the game to do so. So if you are a player who really wants to experience the game, stick with the rest of the methods and forget about the exploit. Hopefully this video helps you out if you're just getting into the game, or if you've been playing for a while but needed some new money-making options. Again, this is just my opinion of what methods work best based on my testing of them and the results I received. In the end, play the game the way you want and build your bases how you want.